In 1977, Stephen King, under the pen name Richard Bachman, released a book entitled Rage. It was not a bestseller by any stretch of the imagination, and it later did become well known for some very unfortunate reasons. The story follows 17-year-old high school senior Charlie Decker, a mentally ill pupil at Placerville High School in Maine. It starts with Charlie being called into the principal's office to discuss an incident between Charlie and another teacher. Charlie had allegedly beaten the teacher with a pipe wrench, effectively ending the teacher's career and getting Charlie suspended for 2 months. Charlie, after insulting the principal and accusing him of sexually assaulting him, gets expelled. Charlie, furious about the expulsion, goes into his locker to retrieve a gun. He sets his locker on fire and then goes into his Algebra 2 class and shoots the teacher dead. Throughout the 4-hour standoff, we learn a lot about Charlie Decker, his past, as well as his motivations. We also learn a lot about his classmates, the most important of the classmates being Ted Jones, Thomas Melvin, Grace Stanner, and Irma Bates. The book goes back and forth between the class talking with each other and Charlie having flashbacks. But eventually Charlie lets the hostages go and reaches for his gun before the cop shoots him 3 times. The book ends with letters to Charlie and a court document stating Decker is unfit for trial. And the final epilogue chapter is a single letter from an unknown narrator, either Charlie or Ted. I personally believe the narrator to be Ted Jones due to the line, "Having a secret makes me feel better, like a human being," again. Because in the book, Ted felt invaded by Charlie and the class prying at all of his secrets. Unfortunately, 5 real-life school hostage situations and shootings have been directly or indirectly related to this book. One shooting has been falsely attributed to the book, a shooting in Moses Lake, Washington, at Frontier Middle School, when it was reported the perpetrator had said, "This sure beats algebra, doesn't it?" It was falsely attributed to the novel, as no such quote appears in the book. In 1988, in San Gabriel, California, Jeffrey Lynn Cox, who was a senior at San Gabriel High School, took an AR-15 and took the humanities class of 60 students hostage for over 30 minutes. Cox held the gun to one student when the teacher doubted Cox would actually harm anybody and stated that he would prove it to her. At that time, 3 students escaped out of a rear door and were fired upon. Cox was later tackled and disarmed by another student. A friend of Cox told the press that Cox had been inspired by the Kuwait Airways Flight 422 hijacking and by the book Rage, which Cox had read over and over and over again, and with which he strongly identified. After the jury deadlocked, Cox pleaded no contest to charges of kidnapping and assault with a deadly weapon, both of which are felony offenses. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison, and miraculously, no student was injured. Jackson County High School in McKee, Kentucky also had a similar event take place when Dustin L. Pierce armed himself with a shotgun and 2 handguns and took a history classroom hostage in a 9-hour standoff with police on September 18, 1989. An event that ended without injury. Police found a copy of Rage among the possessions in Pierce's bedroom, leading to speculation that he had also been inspired by the novel. In Rapid City, North Dakota in 1991, Ryan R. Harris, no relation to Eric Harris, pulled out a sawed-off shotgun and ordered teachers to leave. The teacher complied, and Harris held the rest of the class hostage for the next 4 hours. Harris had been inspired by Stephen King's novel Rage. Harris demanded a pizza, cigarettes, which were delivered, and $1 million and a helicopter, which were not. He fired a total of 10 shots in the room at objects such as the overhead projector and intercom. No students or faculty were injured or killed. Upon receiving the cigarettes he had demanded, Harris set down his shotgun and pulled out a lighter, and then lit his cigarette. At this moment, 17-year-old senior Chris Eriks picked up the shotgun and police swarmed in, bringing the standoff to an end. Unfortunately, not every shooting went without victims. On January 18, 1993, Scott Pennington, a student of East Central High School in Grayson, Kentucky, took a .38 caliber revolver that was his father's and fatally shot his English teacher, Diane McDavid, in the head during the 7th period class. He subsequently shot and killed the school's custodian, Marvin Hicks, and held the class hostage for 20 minutes before releasing them. Just before the shooting, he had written an essay on rage and was upset that McDavid had given it a C grade. Finally, and most famously, in December of 1997, a kid named Michael Carneal shot 8 fellow students, 3 of them fatally, at a prayer meeting at Heath High School in West Paducah, Kentucky. He had a copy of Rage in his locker as a part of the Richard Bachman omnibus. This was the incident that moved King to allow Rage to go out of print. Stephen King said that he did not feel comfortable having Rage in print anymore since there were so many school shootings attributed to the book. He said things like he felt as if he had let gasoline out to kids with firebug tendencies, and that his book was an accelerant for troubled youth. He felt morally obligated to remove the book. And while I can understand his reasoning, the idea that the book would accelerate anything like that to me is ridiculous. I feel like if we are to use the logic of people who like this book, and if the book really amplifies those kinds of tendencies, should we consider another book that Stephen King wrote? You know, The Shining? Men murder their wives and vice versa all the time. But if a man murdered his wife and the cops found a copy of The Shining in the man's possession, do we blame the book? No, that's ridiculous. We hold the person who committed the crime responsible. I honestly don't believe Rage should have ever been pulled out of print, because when I read the book, I felt like I actually understood the mindset and motivation. The second you look into real-life cases, you realize a lot of the time it's not just a simple case of evil children doing horrific things. It's always more complicated than that. It doesn't make it right to act that way, but it's important to realize that. Rage has not, and probably will never have, a movie adaptation. But it has been adapted into a musical. The earliest adaptation I could find of a musical related to Rage is one in Santa Monica, California from either 1989 or 1990. I found promotional artwork on StephenKingCollector.com. I found the cast of the production, and I even found the Playhouse. Unfortunately, it seems like the Playhouse had gotten shut down years ago. Typically in playhouses, they don't allow video cameras to be with the audience members, and at the time those cameras were expensive, so for those reasons I could not find any footage from the musical. I was also able to find another instance of a musical adaptation of Rage in Newtown, Connecticut. I was able to find an article about it, as well as 5 images from the musical. For my closing statement, I'd like to point out that the whole point of this video wasn't just to educate you about the book and its controversies from years later, but it was to put forth the fact that the story can still be told today, and probably should be told today, and the message might even be more important to tell today, and that's what I've been trying to say. And I'm going to end this with a quote from Elizabeth Dinkova, who directed the musical adaptation from Rage in Connecticut. This, referring to school shootings, is a problem in this country, and if artists and educators aren't willing to talk about it, who will? And that's the end of the video. This has been a WK Napalm production over the book Rage. If you liked the video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe and share. Have a good night.